Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly strain review. This week, the episode was entitled The Third Rail. And yeah, so after last week, seeing what happened with Kelly and loved ones, we sort of know the eventual confrontation Ephraim and the rest of the group, but especially Ephraim, are going to be having with her eventually, which is going to be pretty tragic on a few different levels. But that didn't happen this week, but we got a very, very good episode. The strain, as I've said about a million times in all my videos by now, it's always really consistent, at least for this season. And but this episode was a little bit better than most of them. It was a little bit above average even for this show. At least as far as the tenseness and the atmosphere of it all was just really, really good, I think. I mean, if you're like way into horror and seen your fair share of things like this, then I'm sure you're not too frightened by it. But if you're like me, then you can still appreciate that tone and the atmosphere they created with this episode. I thought it was really well done, and you'll know what I mean by that. Once I get talking about the main part of the story this week. And I'm sure if you're watching this review, you've seen the episode, so of course, spoilers. I don't really feel like I have to, say that every week. Because, as I said before, if you're watching this review, I assume we've seen the episode. So, I just feel as if that gives me a lot more freedom to openly discuss everything about it, or everything I want to talk about. So, yeah, so we got really three main stories going on this week. Well, Ephraim, Nora, Fett, Abraham, and let's see, is there anyone else with them? No, I don't believe so. They all went down to track the master in the tunnels, the subway tunnels, which is kind of why it's called the third rail. Also because of that, some of the electricity for the trains coming down are still on, so they had to avoid that. And yeah, so I'm still not completely sure that's their smartest thing to do. I mean, I know they have to hurry and yeah, I'm fiddling with my collar here, but whatever. I mean, I know they have to hurry, and I understand the urgency, but really, do they expect to take down something like the Master? I mean, sure, Abraham's capable. He's very knowledgeable, and he's had a lot of experience with this, but he's not exactly in prime condition. At this point in his life. And Fett, yes, Fett's very capable himself, but he's just one person. And Ephraim and Nora, while incredibly intelligent, they're still, for the most part, kind of unexperienced with, what they're doing as far as vampires or the Strigoi go. So I find it a little bit questionable that they'd all just go in the tunnel together and, try to track the Master down, kill him. I mean, it seems a little too forward. I mean, they're not that. They're not. Let's just say their chances aren't very high if they do that. Okay, in my opinion. But of course, they have a lot of the UV lights or the UVC lights or whatever they're called. So this is really the best part of the episode because although I'm not sure if their plan's really that good, when they went in the tunnels, it was like all dark and as they got further and further in, you seen like all the basically the remnants of who all these vampires used to be because as Abraham and Fett kind of point out that they're basically like the rats, they basically all hibernate, not hibernate, but they all like go in the deepest darkest part they can during the day, and then so and of course they come out at night obviously, but they see like these wallets, they see these different things like that, and Nora's trying to say this represents all they ever were or whatever, all they were, something like that. I'm sorry if I'm stuttering or repeating myself, but and Fett's a little bit more cold. I just hope I have more to be remembered by than just wallet or whatever. or basically, I hope there's more to me than just a wallet, is basically what he said. So, yeah, Fett's a little bit more emotionally detached than Nora is, but so, still that was pretty tragic, just seeing like the how many people have already been affected by what's going on. It's really something. And let's see, so as they travel through the tunnels, or the subway, they basically have to avoid all these sleeping vampires, and so it's really tense throughout. Like everywhere they go, you just feel like something could always be watching them, or something's like right around the corner. Again, really nice, really well done as far as that goes, and probably the most. Like I said, I've seen a lot of stuff, so I'm not really too scared by much nowadays, unless it's like in a theater, volume cranked up, jump scare. It's just a loud noise. But so I'm not really like scared by this, but probably if I had to pick apart, probably the most tense and scariest part of the episode had to be when they had to. Well, they were like following these vampires, seeing where they go, as a way to lead them to the master. And they found this like little hole they would, go through like rats again. And, I had to crawl through that. But of course, the vampires happened to be coming up behind them at the same time. So it was really tense seeing them crawl through such a tight space. Ephraim goes through, and, Nora goes through, Abraham even, and, Fett's holding off the vampires coming after him. And, Fett even has a close call, because, one's like right on his heels as he's crawling through the hole. So, yeah, it was a really, really intense man. And, so it was just well done all around. And, something else about that, Ephraim, he was the first to start crawling through. And, yeah, like as he was doing it, he heard, I'm not sure if it was Kelly's voice or the Master's voice. I think it was probably the Master sounding like Kelly, or it could very well be Kelly too. But he just sort of got hypnotized by hearing Kelly's voice, calling his name really, and I actually was worried about him for a second because he just got kind of blinded by everything else, and he's like, Kelly, and then, he just kind of sort of followed where he thought the sound was coming from. And, even Abraham's yelling after him, Doctor Goodweather, but because he obviously knows what kind of setup that is, but Abraham does, of course. But yeah, I still really feel for Ephraim as far as Kelly goes. We know what happened to her. My prediction is still that she was turned into a more powerful vampire, sort of like Ecorse, Thomas. But so that nothing like that quite happened in this episode. But it's definitely gonna be a big moment pretty soon here, I think. And as Ephraim followed the voice, it led him to the Master's coffin. And, you're sort of listening, and because throughout, even seeing like a random vampire that they're sneaking past that was sleeping, he even thought that was Kelly. So you can tell how much it's really affecting him and how much he still cares about her. So, yeah, but, of course it leads him to the coffin, and he's trying to hear, and he opens up and he starts digging through all the soil and stuff like that. Of course, nothing's there. And the Master is just like really, like, it was really surprising. All of a sudden, you like hear a loud noise, and the Master just like skims across the ceiling basically, and he, falls, and he stands in front of Ephraim, and he grabs him by the throat. And, we get to see the Master's face again, which is... It looked a little bit better this week for some reason. I don't know if it was just the lighting or the mood the episode had created already. But, I don't know, I don't think it's a horrible design, but at the same time, I think it could have been a lot better. I mean, the Master looks more powerful than he does scary. That's how I say it. I mean, I don't think he looks bad, I don't think he looks... Well, slightly silly, maybe, but really, though, I think that, a lot of people, including myself, are expecting him to look a little bit scarier. But he still has a very commanding, threatening, intense presence when he's in the room, so that part works pretty well, at least. And, the design is something I think I can, move past eventually. I'm not one of them who's completely, let down by it, but it is a little bit of a disappointment still overall, I guess. But so the master grabs Ephraim by the throat, and I really tried to focus here, but it's really hard to understand what the master is saying. I like how the voice sounds, but I don't know. I just couldn't make out everything exactly he said. But of course, Ephraim tries to use the silver knife, and he tries to put up the gun and shoot him, but of course, the master's too reflexive and quick for all that, so he basically stops that from doing all that. And I really wish I could have heard what the master said. I heard bits and pieces, but I can't even remember that right now. I mean, I had a full day at school, guys, come on. Cut me some Slack, major Slack videos, awesome Skyrim videos. Anyway. So, that was really intense. I mean, I know Ephraim's the main character, but I haven't read the books, so I was a little bit worried about him right there, obviously. So that was really, really intense. I've said that about a million times already. And, just in time, Abraham and Fett comes in, and that's something I forgot to mention. They were working on, these light, I forget what they called them, but these light bombs that use the UVC rays. That, and Ephraim had the idea that they'd flash like a camera, like the, like the, you know what I mean? I mean, I hope he can get out with my weird hand gestures there, but, so, Fett rolls one of those, and it actually stuns the master, and the master retreats, and of course it distracts and messes up the rest of the vampires in the room too. So, that was really, really awesome. Just seeing these characters come to a head like this, felt like really, if things had gone another way, it could have been a finale. So yeah, it was really, really an awesome scene. And we basically got a Satrakian Abraham breakdown here. I mean, he basically, just loses it after the master gets away. And he actually starts bashing the coffin and he breaks it. And, it's basically because, he had the master within his grasp again after all these years. And we still don't know the full story behind that heart in the jar that he cares so much about. I'm guessing a loved one, that he had to kill, but he actually didn't since the heart's still beating and working anyway. But, with the worms and stuff. And the blood, I mean. But, so after all these years, he had the master within his grasp, and the master just got away again. I know it's going to be really hard to, get a chance like that again, according to him, which he's right. And so, yeah, it's really great acting from David Bradley here. Of course, he's a great actor, and he really showed it again here. And, he's just frustrated at Ephraim for, running so far ahead like that. And he's frustrated at Fett for just, basically forcing the master to retreat, even though they had him right in the room with all of them. Then again, even if they did have him in the room, I'm still not convinced they can actually kill him by themselves, but, I understand the frustration, of course. And Abraham actually tries to go as far as, trying to find where the master went, and he's trying to follow the master, and he eventually tries to go deep into this, area by himself, and, the rest of them stop him. And, they basically, throw, a flare, and, it shows, this whole huge section of a tunnel that's just every foot there's a vampire. They're all crowded, the maintenance tunnels and Dead Rising. If you guys played that game, you know what I'm talking about. It's just, really overcrowded by, I almost said zombies, but vampires. And, yeah, so, yeah, you can imagine what would have happened to Abraham if he just charged on in there. But, he's probably right about the master. He's probably hiding him on all the vampires in that area. Sorry about that. So, yeah, that was really, really something. And, yeah, that's really it for the main part of the episode. I'm backtracking a lot here, but the other two parts of the show we had... of course, they left Zach and I forget her name right now, but Nora's mother back at the pawn shop. Of course, because they wouldn't be of any help. With Nora's mom's what do you call it? Alt, alt, Alzheimer's. Or I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. No disrespect intended, but no disrespect intended. But of course, they had to leave her there with all her back and forth and her memory and stuff like that. And of course, Zach, because he's a child. And like earlier in the episode before they left, him and Zach, Ephraim and Zach had a pretty, emotional goodbye and stuff like that. And it was almost as if Ephraim knew he could possibly die here, so he basically embraced his son again. You could just tell, it was kind of saying that to him. And so throughout the episode, we see Nora's mom, breaking down. She wants to get out, and she's trying to yell to the people outside walking around. Get me out of here. Unlock the fence or the gate or whatever. And the only way Zach's able to have her calm down is, by going out and buying her cigarettes like she kept on demanding. Which, of course, is just a ploy to get Zach to be out on his own. But we'll get to more of that in a second. And the other part of the episode had to do with Gus. We haven't seen him in a episode or two, I think. We got a lot out of him this week, really. We've seen him come home after fleeing the prison van, after he had to kill his friend Felix. And, he comes home and he sees his, drugged out brother, except his brother's staying in front of the TV, and of course he turns around and he's, fully transformed as a vampire. And, so, after all the problems the show has shown they have, it's still pretty hard for Gus to grab a baseball bat and basically kill his brother, even if he was some kind of creature trying to attack him. And Gus kills him in a pretty brutal way. I mean, after he avoids a ton, he actually shoves it in his mouth and just snaps it, basically. Or at least, I'm not sure if he snapped the neck or the tongue, but it was still brutal either way. And, he still cared about his brother despite all his problems and their problems. As far as their relationship goes, it's still hard for him to do that, which is completely understandable. And, he's standing around at first, he's trying to call his mother's work to see where she is, and, of course, we've seen how sweet and innocent his mother is. He was worried about his brother being around her and things like that. But of course, the people at her work say they haven't seen her today. And that's when he, hears, scratching or, moving around. And so he goes in another room in the apartment, and he opens up a closet, and he comes across his mother fully transformed as a vampire and, sleeping in the closet, covered up from all the light and stuff. And so, yeah, he just, has an emotional breakdown. He just completely loses it, seeing his, sweet mother like that. And it's just really, I felt really bad for Gus. It was probably his best episode so far. It makes him a lot more relatable and grounded, too. So, of course, you'd think he was going to put her down, but he actually, she gets up and he actually, leaves her in the apartment. So he's basically, cutting himself off from her, but he couldn't bring himself to kill her either, even if she was, a vampire. So, which is, we'd all like to think we'd be able to put our loved ones down, because we don't want to see them like that. We don't want him to be like that, but really, it's kind of understandable why he couldn't. I'm sure not all of us could either. So, yeah. Some, heartbreaking stuff, really. And, that was it for him for the most part. He just grabs some supplies in his bag and, sets off. And he comes across his landlord, was giving his mother trouble, much earlier in the season. And, he's fully transformed as a vampire, so he basically takes out his anger about what happened to his brother and his mother on, the transformed landlord, and he kills him, so that's pretty awesome. And, back to Zach. So, of course, Zach went to the, store to get the cigarettes for Nora's mother. And, of course, the city in general is becoming more chaotic. I mean, people are looting. So you can tell there's a lot more stuff going on around the city that we're not seeing. With more vampires being out there and, chaos ensuing, basically, with, most of the internet being down anyway. the phone lines and stuff like that. For the most part, apparently. That's spotty, which is a little bit of a problem with the show, but it's alright. You know, here and there it's working, here and there it's not. It's kind of weird, but... You know, and so Zach goes in the store, you know, tries to get the cigarettes when he hears people coming in. And some people are questioning, why did he hide from, you know, humans? You know, it was just like a girl and a guy probably in their 20s. Yeah, I don't think they'd necessarily hurt him either, but of course Zach ran off to the back of the store and hid in the basement of all places when you're in a fucking vampire apocalypse. Excuse my language, but I apologize. But, so he goes into the basement and he sees this vampire just sitting in the chair, you know, and she just has like this blank gaze on her face, and yeah, so he doesn't pay much mind to her. Maybe she's, you know, sleeping like the others in a weird way. You know, but then he looks away, then he looks back again, and she's gone. So he tries to climb back up out of the basement, and then he runs into the, you know, the two people that were looting the store. And, you know, that's when the two of them get attacked by and killed by the vampire that came up. And, you know, Zach gets away, though, and, you know, of course the vampire's going to come back out after him, and that's when, just as he's trying to get out of the store, that's when he runs into Gus, coincidentally enough. And so, you know, Gus, you know, just tells the kid to get out of there, really, and Gus just, you know, storms down the hall, you know, down the aisle of the store, and he, you know, goes into the room where the vampire was, and of course we kind of can assume that he killed the vampire. So that's pretty cool. You know, it's kind of a letdown now. I wish, you know, Gus would have stayed with Zach or whatever. But really, it's more realistic that, you know, all the characters can't come together right away. You know, like the vampire SWAT team and stuff. I've been wanting to see more of them, but I understand it'd be too much of a weird coincidence if they all happen to run into each other so quickly. But I know it's going to happen eventually. I'm sure Gus will come across our core characters at some point. So yeah, Gus is definitely becoming a better character for sure. I'm still curious as to what they're going to do with him, how soon they're going to have him meet up with a core group, or what they're going to do. We'll see. So that was cool. Let's see what else. I covered the group in the tunnels. I covered Gus. And I covered Zach and Nora's mom. So yeah, I already basically talked about the ending of the episode towards the beginning, earlier on in this video. So yeah, I really went out of order there, but that's really my review for this week. And just, yeah, a very good episode. And yeah, it definitely feels like we're nearing the finale here. I mean, as far as I know, we only have about 2 episodes left, I believe. Yep, 2 episodes left. The one next week and the one after that, of course. So yeah, it's a really great series so far. I'm glad it's been renewed for season 2, and I can't wait to see how they close off the season. So yeah, I'll catch you guys next time for my weekly strain review or anything else in between. And peace.